perfect. I've got to have it.
It pays to discover. This is CNN, a network of Turner Broadcasting System.
From the world's financial capital, New York City, this is Moneyline with Lou Dobbs.
Good evening. Nothing like an international incident to boost the dollar. The dollar today surging in global trading after U.S. fighters shot down 2 Libyan warplanes over the Mediterranean Sea. The Pentagon says the U.S. planes acted in self-defense while flying in international airspace. The dollar usually attracts buyers in times of international tension. Analysts say investors see the dollar now as a safe investment because of America's military and financial might. But one dollar watcher says there's also an emotional reaction during times of crisis, especially in the age of terrorism.
Sometimes we're a little bit more elated when we see that the U.S. is potentially flexing that muscle and indicating that we are strong and we are on the lookout to prevent these things from happening. But it does concern a lot of people that it can make the world that much more dangerous, and therefore they like to come under our military umbrella as well as our markets and our financial umbrella.
Orders to buy dollars pouring into currency markets around the world. In New York trading, the dollar gained 2 pfennigs against the Deutschmark, more than a yen against the Japanese currency. The dollar also closing sharply higher against most major currencies. The strong dollar ignited a rally on Wall Street today. The Dow Jones Industrials posting the biggest one-day gain in 2 months. The Dow rose early, beginning a slow climb for most of the session. Late in the day, a wave of computer buy programs sweeping through the market. The Dow doubling a gain in only an hour, closing 33 points higher. The stock market may have caught fire, but it was a washout in the other markets. The Treasury's 30-year bond closed slightly lower. In commodity trading, a rough day for crude oil and precious metals. West Texas Intermediate crude falling sharply, while silver closed below $6 an ounce for the first time in a year. Gold prices also falling. The financial markets today dominated by news out of the Mediterranean. The Pentagon denying that the downing of those 2 Libyan planes is related to construction of a chemical weapons plant near Tripoli. Libya says the plant is only for making pharmaceutical drugs. Meanwhile, the controversy is heating up over reports that a West German chemical company is helping Libya develop chemical weapons. Grant Perry is here tonight, has been looking into the story, and has the report for us. Grant?
Lou, at first the West German government totally discounted reports that a West German chemical company, Imhausen Chemie, may be helping the Libyans develop the capacity to produce chemical weapons at this plant in Rabta, Libya. The company denies the charges, but now the West German government says it takes the accusations about the Libyan plant very seriously, even though it still has no evidence that any German companies are assisting the Libyans. Meanwhile, Moneyline has learned that the West German government has a lot more to say about German assistance that may have been provided to Iraq in making chemical weapons during the Iran-Iraq war. In an interim report issued just yesterday, the government said 38 persons are under investigation, that more than 90 witnesses have testified in the probe, and more than 50 firms and persons have been searched. The report also says there are suspicions that chemicals were funneled through France and Austria to circumvent West German export controls. The Iran-Iraq war is, of course, over, and the U.S. State Department is more concerned about what the Libyans might do with chemical weapons in the future. The State Department says it is engaged in a full-scale diplomatic effort to convince a number of companies to closely monitor their chemical companies. The State Department says it's not too late to stop full-scale production at the Libyan plant. But others are skeptical about that. They say the technology isn't terribly complex, and the Libyans may already have all the expertise and materials they need to produce nerve and mustard gas. Lou.
Okay, Grant, thank you. And Grant Perry will be following up on that story to report on the companies involved in that Libyan chemical weapons plant. Well, Braniff today revving up to fly with the airline big boys, announcing plans to buy up to 100 commercial jets from Airbus Industries. The cost of the deal, a lofty $3.5 billion. The chairman of Braniff, William McGee, says the move signals the airline's commitment to become a major coast-to-coast carrier within the next year and a half.
These A320 aircraft are modern, highly efficient, quiet, and long-range aircraft. High payload and lower operating costs will help keep Braniff competitive for years to come.
Braniff also making a deal to assure delivery of at least some of those planes by mid-summer, swapping a highly sought-after Airbus delivery position with Pan Am. Usually, airlines must wait 3 to 4 years for delivery of their aircraft. The backlog of orders at Airbus now topping 450, the European consortium delivering just 60 planes a year. Boeing's backlog, by way of contrast, now tops 1,100. 1988 deliveries just under 300 aircraft. And McDonnell Douglas, a backlog there of 278 aircraft, delivering just less than half that number in 1988. Strong demand for commercial aircraft setting the tone for factory orders in general. New orders in November overcoming a sharp decline in the military sector, overall registering a healthy 0.3% gain. Excluding the military, orders rising a strong 1.1%. The Borden Corporation has developed what it hopes will be a surefire poison pill defense. We'll tell you all about it when Moneyline continues. Stay with us.
Moneyline is brought to you by Shearson Lehman Hutton, the financial firm for the serious investor.
Shearson Lehman Hutton. Stocks returned over 16% in 1988. The one-year CD returned 8%. Stocks returned over 16% in 1988, yet investors put more money into cash investments than ever before. Stocks returned over 16% in 1988, and nobody wants to hear it. Nobody except the long-term investor who reaps the highest rewards. Shearson Lehman Hutton.
They've made Tylenol even better.
Gel caps are concentrated power.
They're solid, and they go down easier than capsules.
Tylenol gel caps are smaller than capsules, with extra-strength pain relief concentrated into a solid center under a smooth gelatin coating, so they're strong and easy to swallow.
Fantastic. Just fantastic.
Gel caps. Tylenol gel caps. It's a tough pain medicine.
Extra-strength Tylenol gel caps. It's not a capsule. It's better.
Get some Z's.
Nitol will help you get your Z's.
Nitol helps you feel drowsy so you can get your Z's.
Nitol will help you get your Z's.
Every time you check channels, check CNN, because a world of surprises is waiting for you at the push of a button. CNN. Stay informed.
Borden, the consumer food and chemical company today, announcing an unusual takeover defense, a defense that relies on a kind of buddy system. If a corporate raider were to acquire Borden at what the company were to consider less than fair value, and if that raider were to fire even one top Borden executive, 24 more Borden executives would quit on the spot. Steve Young is here tonight with the intriguing story about this intriguing, innovative idea.
Lou, Borden's one-for-all and all-for-one pact could be the start of a new corporate trend, the era of the poison pink slip.
Borden, which says it wants to stay independent and doesn't see any sharks in the water, is just going on record in case one swims by. It set up a system under which all managers in the top 2 tiers of the company would resign if any one of them got fired after the company had been taken over at less than fair value. You could call it a kind of poison pink slip.
An acquirer who gains control without paying our shareholders a fair price risks losing the entire senior operating management, the people who developed and actually run the company's 6 different businesses.
Borden directors have redefined the meaning of fair value and invented a unique standby takeover agreement. It would last 3 years and be triggered if the takeover price is wrong. The right price is fair company value as determined by outside experts, plus at least 50% of whatever an acquirer could gain from sell-offs or restructuring. The company claims the threatened poison pink slips protects shareholders, not Borden bigwigs. It says the 25 Borden executives already are protected by individual employment contracts with a combined value of $35 million. Having given birth to the poison pink slip, Borden hopes the concept sweeps corporate America. So far, no reaction from most leveraged buyout companies, which are still chewing over the idea.
Borden says it consulted with 4 law firms which believe the strategy will survive any conceivable challenge. Well, we reached takeover specialist Boone Pickens for a comment. He remains undaunted by the new strategy, saying they're way overestimating their value in the scheme of things. Lou?
Imagine that. Top management overestimating its value. Steve, thank you. Well, something of a change of heart and certainly a change of direction on Wall Street today. Stock prices rallying, making up for yesterday's losses, and then more. The Dow Jones Industrial Average doubling its gains in the final hour of trading, closing up 33. The Dow finishing at 2,177.68, up 33.04 on the day. Volume, 149,700,000 shares as the second day of trading in this new year, picking up the pace and advancing issues 4-1, an advantage over decliners. And the New York Stock Exchange Composite Index up 2.08, the S&P 500 up 4.12. The Dow Transportation's posting a post-crash high. Strong airline group gaining 18.81. The utilities up also sharply, up 2.61. And the 10 most active issues on the big board today, Marion Laboratories up 1 5/8, expecting to begin marketing a new heart drug in the next quarter. Oklahoma Gas and Electric trading ex-dividend, as was Montana Power, both gaining on the day a fraction. RJR Nabisco up 1/2, Exxon up 3/4, IBM up 5/8, Canadian Pacific up 1/4, Bell South trading ex-dividend up 1/2, and Verity was unchanged while Telephone gained an 1/8. In over-the-counter trading, the NASDAQ Composite Index gained 4.20, closed at 382.76 on volume of 121,273,000 shares. And on the American Exchange, a gain of 2.53, the close 307.77, volume 12,321,000 shares. And taking a look at tonight's Moneyline market movers, Federal Express jumping 3 1/4, the rival United Parcel Service raising its rates, giving Federal Express a competitive edge. Freeport McMoran both gaining 2 3/8, boosting its quarterly dividend. First Corp dropping 1 7/8, a loss for the fiscal year and no quarterly dividend. In over-the-counter trading, Medstone up 3 3/4, a product distribution agreement with GE. North Atlantic Industries up 1 1/4. The company's looking for a buyer, and investors sending the stock up better than 40%. Vacuum maker Regina coming clean today, reporting a 15-month net loss of almost $17 million, a 90% decline in stockholders' equity. Last September, the company withdrew incorrect financial figures, those figures reflecting healthy profits instead of the more accurate losses. Regina's stock moving up 1/4. It closed at 5 1/4. That's down from a 52-week high of 27 1/2. Well, takeover stories, which flooded the market last year, show no signs of letting up in early 1989. Moneyline columnist Dan Dorfman is here tonight to zero in on some of the latest, most interesting, fascinating stories making the rounds. Dan.
It's wonderful. I love the way you put that.
Well, thank you.
Well, Lou, you know, the game does go on. And let's start off, Lou, with some of the intriguing names you talk about. And for starters, Lou, a brand new name, Marriott Corporation. Talk is a potential buyer, perhaps Japanese, maybe Donald Trump, may be eyeing the company. The thing, though, is that Marriott insiders hold about 17%. So an unfriendly deal may be very tough to do. However, significantly, there's been a lot of options activity in this one. We go on to Cooper Tire and Rubber, the 7th largest tire manufacturer in the country, stock up 5/8. The story is it's under accumulation, not by me, but supposedly by someone. Here's a name, Lou, that's been around for quite a while, Texaco, 52 up 1, big volume.
I'm sorry?
Texaco.
Texaco.
52 up 1.
It's not up there on the graphic.
Well, it should have been, Lou. Anyway,
we'll find out who's responsible.
Okay, 52 up 1, and there are several rumors.
There it is. There it is.
Okay, 3 rumors, Lou. One is a big...
Another career save.
One is a big restructuring... Well, here we go again. One is a big restructuring next week. We'll have to wait and see. Another story, Icon may bid in the low 60s shortly. And the third story making the rounds is that Texaco Canada may be sold at a much higher price than expected. We go on to SmithKline Beckman. I hope we have that one on the screen. Lou, up 5/8. This one's been around for quite a while. The story there, Beecham. Takeover fever continues. We go on to Ohio Mattress, which is certainly not sweeping lately. Stock up 3/4. The company announces considering selling out, and rumors of a deal coming soon. This price around 21 bucks a share. Lou, controlled data, 20 and 5/8. Look at this one, Lou. 20 and 5/8, up 3/4. And Lou, the rumor of a takeover of this one has been around, I think, for 20 and 5/8 years. And the story is a foreign buyer is on the way. I'll believe it when I see it. And finally, another new name, Lou, Interlake, 43 1/4, diversified manufacturing company. The story is someone is accumulating the stock. Again, Lou, strictly stories. We've got some new names in there, and the game goes on.
The game goes on, and you've made it more interesting by talking about them in sort of reverse order from what our production people had assembled them.
Well, we like to surprise.
I think it's probably more interesting for the viewer to try to keep up with us. So we apologize for taking all of that out of order. We'll try to get it sorted out the next time. And it was nice to see a new name in there.
No, there were several new names there, Lou.
Well, there's Ohio Mattress. There was
no Ohio
Marriott.
Mattress announces considering it's selling out. But there's Marriott, there's Interlake. That's another name, and we also had Lou Cooper Tire and Rubber.
Cooper Tire and Rubber is hardly new. I mean, that's been around for months.
I know, but now, Lou.
It's sort of new to you, or?
No, it's never new to me. It's not new to me.
Never
Lou.
new to you.
No, I shouldn't say that. Not new to me, Lou. But the action is stepping up.
Okay. And all of them are guaranteed.
I make no guarantees.
That's what
no
we
guarantees.
wanted to get that point out very quickly.
Okay.
Dan, it's fun to start the new year. Great.
You bet.
Thank you. We will continue with Moneyline. Stay with us.
Shearson Lehman Hutton, January 1989, where we stand on stocks. Contrary to popular opinion, 1988 was not a bad year. Stocks returned over 16%, outperforming all cash investments. We believe the stock market will rise in 1989, again outperforming money funds and CDs. Our recommendation, buy stocks for the long term. Shearson Lehman Hutton.
What does grapefruit juice have in common with a pelican? Both come from Florida. Of course, grapefruit juice isn't a big bird that flies, but it does give you quite a lift, and it's more refreshing. So for a great refreshing taste, keep the pelicans in Florida and 100% pure grapefruit juice in your fridge.
Now, for 1 month free of charge, you can have something in common with world leaders and opinion makers everywhere. It's the Christian Science Monitor, one of America's finest newspapers. The Monitor will give you clear, insightful coverage of major national and international events. And now it's yours for 1 month free. And if you'd like to continue your subscription, get 2 additional months, making 3 months in all for just $18. Save half off the regular price. Get 1 month of the Monitor free. Call 1-800-257-1257.
While you're sleeping, the world's trading. What they do tonight may affect your profit tomorrow.
Well, I'm getting buried.
Avoid a rude awakening. Check CNN's Business Morning, weekdays at 6:30 a.m. Eastern.
A government report released on school lunches. This and more as the news continues.
Good morning. Milk didn't used to cost this much.
It's the dollar pushing
Give me a
slightly
kiss.
higher in London. Very slow trading, though. Yesterday,
As millions of American youngsters go back to classes, the Education Secretary is already issuing a report
For
card
all the reasons in the world,
Oh, let's see what's going on this morning.
stay informed with CNN every morning.
What do the Libya experts think about the shooting down of 2 Libyan jets?
We'll be speaking live with Dr. Frank Fukuyama, a senior staff member with the RAND Corporation on Newsnight.
At the top of the hour.
The top management of Drexel Burnham Lambert in talks with the Securities and Exchange Commission on a possible settlement of securities fraud charges. The Drexel negotiating team includes Chairman Robert Linton, Chief Executive Officer Fred Joseph. They began meeting with government officials yesterday. Drexel has until next Tuesday to settle civil charges filed by the SEC in September. That deadline is part of an agreement on criminal charges reached with U.S. Attorney Rudolph Giuliani. Well, the defense today moved for a mistrial in the stock manipulation case against GAF and its vice chairman, James Sherwin. GAF attorneys would not comment on the details of the motion, but it is believed to involve inadmissibility of evidence, that evidence obtained by the government in the case. The judge is expected to rule on that motion for a mistrial tomorrow. All of that behind-the-scenes maneuvering cutting into the testimony of the government's star witness today, Boyd Jeffries, the former chairman of Jeffries and Company, taking the stand. He was on the stand for less than an hour. Barring further delays or a mistrial, Jeffries' cross-examination should begin tomorrow. Well, still more advice about managing the savings and loan crisis in this country, this time from the chairman of the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, William Seidman, today saying the fund used to insure the savings and loans should be an independent agency. The Federal Savings and Loan Insurance Corporation is now run by the Federal Home Loan Bank Board, but Seidman says that's a bad marriage.
The Bank Board's mission is to provide lower-cost financing to help American people have housing. It's a very desirable objective, but that objective may be in direct conflict with having having S&Ls make sound loans.
Seidman says unsound loans have left a $60 billion hole in the savings and loan industry. Seidman's proposal, by the way, drew criticism, and quickly, from the Federal Home Loan Bank Board, no stranger to criticism itself. The Congressional Budget Office today saying the cost of the savings and loan crisis and its cleanup will inflate the federal budget deficit, even more than had been thought. The nonpartisan group upping its deficit estimate by $7 billion to $155 billion for the fiscal year 1989. That won't be the end of it. The savings and loan crisis will add another $6 to $11 billion to the deficit each year for the next 5 years.
Turner Broadcasting System entered cable television in its infancy, and the rapid growth of Superstation TBS quickly established its reputation as cable's leading pioneer. Then Turner broke new ground with CNN and Headline News, now in every other home in America and making strong international headway. Now comes TNT, boasting the world's greatest MGM films in partnership with the cable industry itself. Turner Broadcasting System, poised for the future.
Some things you do because you have to. And some things you do because you want to. At Omni Hotels, we're bringing have to and want to closer together than ever before. Try us next time you have to be away from home on business. Omni Hotels, where you want to be when you have to be away. Call 1-800-THE-OMNI.
Introducing a completely different Mercury Cougar. Introducing pulse-quickening comfort. The all-new Cougar from Mercury, where comfort and control are one.
From a poolside gator to a train off its track, a CNN news hound shoots an unexpected event. Anytime, anywhere.
We'll get a call from a news hound and respond immediately. The news hound tape can give CNN the extra edge when we can't be there ourselves.
If you see and record news on your home video camera, call 1-800-544-NEWS and become a CNN news hound.
Our 900 poll question tonight asks whether you think the U.S. was justified in shooting down 2 Libyan jets.
Was it self-defense? Register your opinion on Newsnight.
At the top of the hour.
Our columnist, Myron Candell, now takes a look at that Borden anti-takeover plan, and he says he likes what he sees. Myron, tell us why.
Lou, I do like this new Borden plan because it's an innovative effort to protect the interests of both shareholders and management. One of the reasons for the takeover wave that has swept corporate America in recent years is that the stock market, supposedly a most efficient pricing mechanism, has undervalued the shares of many companies. That's why we keep hearing from my pal Dan Dorfman and others that the breakout value of such and such a company is far more than the current price of its stock. Since the parts are worth a lot more than the whole, corporate raiders are attracted to buy up the company and sell off the pieces at a big profit. In some cases, the pieces can do better, either on their own or in concert with similar operations. In other cases, however, the dismemberment can be economically inefficient and personally brutal. In any event, the real value of a company, whole or in pieces, should accrue to its shareholders rather than raiders or speculators. The Borden plan tries to do that. It leaves it up to its board of directors to determine if a takeover bid represents fair value. And that fair value isn't just the current stock price plus a premium. It's also other benefits that an acquirer would gain later. If that condition and some others aren't met, the management of the company walks. True, it walks with some golden parachutes, but ones that don't seem excessive to me. Two other points about Borden. It has a good record of growth in both dividends and stock price. And I also like its board. Of its 10 directors, only 2, the president and former CEOs, are officers of the company. The 8 others are independent directors. Now, this plan may not be perfect, but it's a good move toward protecting shareholders and repelling avaricious takeover artists who are just in it for a quick buck. Lou?
A quick buck and avaricious takeover artists.
There are a few of those around.
Well, there are. But who benefits immediately from that avarice?
Well, but what this plan says is...
It was a rhetorical question.
Well, the shareholder does get a premium over the present price.
Right.
But this plan says that the future benefit, which now will accrue only to the takeover artist, the LBO firm or whatever, will also be shared by the shareholders.
Be shared by the shareholder. You said that you did casually mention golden parachutes. In the case of Borden, we're talking about 3 years out. Full pay.
Most executives of companies these days do have employment contracts, and that's a perfectly legitimate business tool.
I have no problem. I have no problem with employment contracts, nor would I suspect that you would. You and I both operate under employment contracts. But the idea that top management should have, these are golden parachutes put into play when the company is taken over.
But don't forget, it's not the management...
Do you really believe that top management's entitled to a 3-year payout because the company is taken over?
But Lou, it's not the top management that determines whether the offer is of fair value. It's the board, and as I indicated, this board is dominated by independent directors.
Well, that's terrific.
They would do a good job.
Ultimately, shouldn't the shareholder have the right to tender his or her shares at a stated price?
Well, there's nothing to stop it. The management of the company says that we're willing to walk. Now, it's not easy, even with that 3-year contract, it's not easy for somebody to get up, especially a middle manager who hasn't been there all that long, to get up and walk and go find a new job. They're prepared to do that if they feel the offer isn't fair.
You're saying that these valuable top managers would require 3 years to find new employment, and they're so critical to the operation of the country?
It's a generous plan, but otherwise you wouldn't get the 25 people to agree to it.
But doesn't this plan, in its nature, suggest all of the wrong things? The reason that we've seen corporate raids and leverage buyouts, that the managers are putting premiums on their services rather than in bringing about value for the shareholders.
I think the management of Borden has done a very good job over the years to maximize shareholder value, and this is a way of protecting both them and the shareholders. I like it.
And especially them. Myron, thank you. We're out of time. That's Moneyline for tonight. We thank you for joining us. I'm Lou Dobbs. Good night from New York.
For a transcript of Moneyline, send a check for $3 and a self-addressed stamped envelope to CNN Business News, 5 Penn Plaza, New York, New York, 10001.